Okay. Dear friends, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, hello to everybody. Today I have a pleasant opportunity to tell you about my personal experience, about results of my personal experience of working at the wind farms in Ukraine as an expert in assessing the impact of wind farms on birds and bat populations. We plan to organize and hold several meetings. The topic of today's meeting is birds and wind farms, environmental impact assessment, part number 1, what kills birds. Such lectures for a free audience became possible thanks to the initiative of Calidris company, France, in cooperation with Department of Human Biology and Ecology, Bogdan Khmelnitsky, Melitopol State Pedagogical University, Ukraine. What is our goal? What is our main aims? During our 6 meeting, it means 6 lectures, we will show how wind farms and elements of wildlife interact, how to conduct a research in the territories of wind farms, how to assess risks, and how to mitigate the negative impact. What is our tasks? To characterize brief history of the development of wind energy in Ukraine and in the world. Show that threats exist to wildlife. Define techniques for studying birds and bats. Present the results of the study of birds and bats at wind farm in Ukraine. Finally, develop recommendation for minimizing, for mitigation of negative impact of wind plants on birds and bat populations. Humans have been using wind power for thousands of years, and this isn't set to change anytime soon. We have made labs and bouncing turbines technology over the past few decades, from the first wind turbine to generate more than 1 megawatt to electricity developed in 1941. Researchers are getting over closer to the 20 megawatts turbine. But these achievements are based on in hundreds and even thousands of years of technological development of harness wind energy. Here is a brief history of how humans have used wind power throughout the ages. The first signs of human using wind energy can be dated as far back as 5000 BC. Then it was used to push boats along the Nile River in Africa. There is also excuse me, I switch this light. All right. There is also evidence that buildings were designed with the natural ventilation around the same period. Later in Babylon, during the 17th century BC, Emperor Hammurabi made plans to use wind power for an ambitious irrigation project. In the Middle East, in Persia, windmills were used to grind grain. In China, around 200 BC, they were used for pump water. Different methods of harness wind power began to spread all around the world during the early Middle Ages. During the 9th centuries in Afghanistan and Pakistan, wind-powered machines were developed to mill cereals and pump water. In the Sistan region of Iran, they developed windmills for this, consisting of sails arranged around a central vertical column. Throughout the Middle Eastern region, windmills were used in food production. In 1887, Professor James Bliss from Scotland created the first wind turbine for electricity production, which he used to power of lighting in his holiday cottage. It's a normal situation because in holiday cottage is important for us. Whilst he wished to share the excess electricity with the nearby village, and his offer was turned down, and his creation was deemed to be the work of the devil. Unfortunately, his technology never really caught on because it wasn't considered financially viable. In the United States, Charles Brush created the world's first automatically operated wind turbine generator between 1887 and 1888. The machine was a lot bigger than Bliss machine, with a 17 meters rotor diameter and mounted on the 18.3 meters high tower. The machine turned very slowly and had 144 blades, only producing 12 kilowatt. It was used between 1888 and 1900, but subsequently fell into disrepair until it was abandoned in 1908. During the 1920s, Georges Darrier, a French aeronautical engineer, developed the Darrier turbine, the first vertical axis wind turbine, which he got patented in the United States in 1931. Whilst many small wind turbines and pumps were used in the late of 1800s and early 1900s across the United States, their number started to decrease from the 1930s onward as power lines were extended to many farms and ranches across the country. With the oil shortages it hit the world in the 1970s, wind power gained a whole new interest as countries around the world started looking into alternative energy sources. Much of the technology development within the field of wind energy during this period were driven by the United States, which created a research program designed to find utility-scale energy resources. But the next decade, states across the United States were getting involved in the bid to promote clean. For instance, California set in a host of measures to promote the development of wind energy, and thousands of turbines were installed. With renewable concern about global warming, governments around the world have pushed policies and initiatives to promote the research and development of renewable energies. The renewable energy sector has grown consistently over the past few years and decades. According to the International Renewable Energy Agency, in 2010, global renewable energy capacity was at 1.2 terawatt. 10 years later, it had reached 2.8 terawatt. It's becoming clear that clean energy is the pathway to the sustainable future, meaning companies and governments around the world are increasingly turning their attention toward it. Many people believe that development of alternative energy sources is purely modern phenomenon. Meanwhile, in the former USSR, wind power was used to electricity of country during the first 5-year plan. The experimental wind farm in Balaklava, with capacity of 100 kilowatt, was developed under the direction of inventor Yuri Kondratyuk and installed there in 1931. Before the war, it produced electricity for the Balaklava-Sevastopol tram line. During the war, it was destroyed, unfortunately. In the spring of 1932, Grigory Ordzhonikidze, this man is #1 in energy in that time, People's Commissar of Heavy Industry and Energy, ordered the announced competition for project of powerful wind power station capable to provide electricity for southern Crimea. Learning about the competition for the design of wind power station at Petro, Yuri Kondratyuk decided to participate in it. The assess of the project suggested by Kondratyuk was the construction of reinforced concrete mast on the Bedenekir Plateau. It's 4 kilometers north of the peak of Petro. This place is located at the altitude 1,234 meters above sea level, so 1, 2, 3, 4 meters above sea level. And the arranged annual wind speed here reaches to very high rates. The height of the tower was to be 165 meters. It was supposed to place 2 3 blades propeller wind turbine with the diameter of 100 meters on it. Yuri Kondratyuk and his few colleagues sent their project to the competition under the code name Icarus. Kondratyuk's project provided 24 megawatt. For comparison, in the United States, where wind power is now very widespread, the first wind farm appeared in 1941. Its capacity was only 1.2 megawatt. Ecology was recognized as the winner of competition. Crimean wind plant, decision by Kondratyuk, had to become the most powerful and highest in the world. It would seem that success was guaranteed. However, the great plan collapsed overnight. In May, in that period, and that's the same year, the project of Petro wind farm was declared as obviously defective. A year later, this decision was recognized as riskless, and in 1938, the construction of the Crimea wind farm was stopped forever. All that remains Icarus is reinforced concrete glass on iPetri. You can see on the middle photo on the slide, which has to become a foundation for the 165-meter structures. Global wind power forecast. It's important for us for the next part of our lecture. From an installed capacity of 756 gigawatt at the end of 2020, the decade will see the wind power market grow threefold by 2030, when project in operation will amount to 2.2 gigawatt. The report of our colleagues points to China as the largest proponent of this growth, accounting for 36% of additions over the next decade, reaching 780 gigawatt to cumulative capacity by 2030. The United States represent the second largest market, accounting for 15%, ahead of India. In third place, it is with 5% of the decade installations. The annual growth of wind energy capacity 2013-2021 shows that in 2019, after the commissioning of several wind farms, this indicator increased by almost 10 times compared to previous years. The total installed capacity of the wind energy sector on the mainland of Ukraine for the period from 2015 to 2021 shows rapid growth. Only in the last 3 years, 2019-2021, the total installed capacity has increased 3 times compared to 2018. In 2021, 91 new wind turbines with a total capacity of 359 megawatt were commissioned in 3 regions of Ukraine. Thus, the total installed capacity of the wind energy sector by the end of 2021 is 1.7 million megawatt. Today, 700 wind turbines with an average unit capacity of 3.5 megawatt generate green electricity in Ukraine. According to the total installed capacity at the end of 2021, wind energy remains second after solar energy in the national renewable energy sector. However, it should be noted that it was the wind energy sector of Ukraine that added the largest number of new capacity to the green energy mix of the country last year. In general, in 2021, it was put into operation in 2.5 times more new wind power capacity compared to 144 megawatt in 2020. If we analyze the installation of wind turbines by region of Ukraine, we can see that the leaders are Zaporizhia. This is my native region because I was born in Melitopol and I like it, and Kherson region. The indicator of wind energy capacity of these 2 areas are almost the same. So, what preliminary conclusion we can draw? Wind energy has been used by humans for over 7,000 years. From the wind, men learned to generate electrical energy. In the 21st centuries, the development trend of wind energy around the world shows a rapid growth. In Ukraine, we are also seeing an intensive development of wind energy. Why did it happen? Because wind is eternal energy. Wind energy is pure energy. We use wind, we don't use coal, oil, gas. 1 gigawatt from renewable energy reduced carbon dioxide emission by, attention, 2.6 million tons annually. 2.6 million tons annually. It's a huge number for me. I understand it's not so big volume for our planet, but we're talking about only 1 gigawatt. Now we're talking about 100 terawatt. So it's not bad. And finally, all wars are carried out to capture energy resources. You don't have to fight for the wind, because wind, it's not my resources, it's not resources of my country, it's not yours. So you don't have to fight for the wind. Everything is going great. Not everything is fine. Energy supply is almost the most urgent problem of humanity. Solving this problem is related to issues of environmental protection and environmental safety. The positive aspects of using wind energy are generally known. We will note only the ecological aspect, the reduction of greenhouse gas emission, use the eternal source of energy and others. However, the ecological plane of the use of the issue has absorbed some problems, including the destruction of the soil cover, damage of the plants and animals, as well as the impact of human health. The most discussed problem among environmentalists is the threat of collision of birds and bats with wind turbines. How relevant is this problem? What is the scale of this phenomenon? Are the dynamics of this threat during the year? Is ecological management of the use of wind energy possible? These and other questions are considered by us in the next message, which is based, among other things, on the analysis of literature sources regarding the international experience of studying of relationship between bird and wind station. Evaluation of wind farms and wind generation occurs in several ways. Some people think that wind farms are bad. Such an opinion can be based on professional knowledge of the situation, maybe on the complete ignorance of the situation, and it can also be motivated by a corruption component. The second group of the people thinks that the wind farms are wonderful. Such an opinion is also associated with professional knowledge, maybe with lack of knowledge, and may also be the result of corrupt policies. The third group are honest people. They do not know the situation and cannot make a decision because there are not enough arguments and facts. Half of these people say, we don't know and we don't care. They are honest but indifferent people. The other half says, we don't know, but we want to find out. This is a group of honest people who are explorers. We all belong to such a group of researchers, I hope so. Characteristics of bird wind turbine system. The potential threats of wind turbines to birds can be divided into groups. First, direct collision. It means collision with blades during the movements or stationary with mast of wind turbines, power lines, infrastructure facilities, and other. Second point, the disturbance of birds during construction and operation phase, both phase. Loss of biotopes due to the placement of wind turbines in bird territories. It's mean on the nesting place, feeding place for seasonal congregations and other. And finally, creating barrier during the flight especially in traditional place movement of birds. It's mean migratory flows, feeding flight, movement in place, roosts, migratory congregations, molting, and congregations after nesting period, before seasonal migrations, and other. The listed impact can be direct and indirectly. It's been decrease in the total number of birds in the area of wind farm, decrease in the number of nesting pairs, redistribution of birds between territories, disappearance and appearance of some species of birds in local population. It is possible to talk about the negative impact only in the first case, in a direct collision. But even here, one must be careful from the point of view of assessing the degree of this influence. To characterize the level of danger for birds from other threats, it is necessary a more detailed analysis of causality. The first warning against the construction of wind turbines as bird-threatening objects, your study is conducted at the Altamont Pass wind farm near San Francisco on the north of California. Built in 1982, the wind park has 5,400 turbines. From literature sources known that between 800 and 1,300 birds of prey die here from collision with wind turbine blades, and 22,000 sparrows annually. 22,000 small birds annually, and nearly 1,000 birds of prey die here from collision with wind turbines blades. It's a shame. There were similar problems at the Spanish stations in Navarra. According to the study, at 11 stations in this province, killed 20.6 vultures. You can see on the photo right, 20.6 vultures per turbine each year, and several thousand other small birds. Every 3 days, a vulture dies in the Cavar wind farm, consisting of 32 wind turbines located in Navarra. According to data collection for the past 20 years, vultures killed in Spanish wind farm almost reached 10,000 in number, and of those, about 3,000 die in Navarra. Each year, at least 700 griffon vulture die in Spain, and the number is increasing. If we compare the mortality rates of birds at wind farms in past year and at present time, then according to the result of studies by some authors, we see a clear picture or a decrease in the number of dead birds. For example, in the 90s of the last centuries, up to 50-60 birds died per turbine annually. Currently, this parameter is less than 2 birds per turbine annually. Question: why has there been a decrease in bird mortality at wind farms? We analyze the stage of development of wind energy. We state that in the early stage, the impact on birds was minimal. The period of active development of wind energy was the most dangerous for birds, because tens of thousands of megawatt wind turbines have been installed. Their construction and installation were carried out in violation of priorities of birds. Lines of wind turbines created a barrier to the free flight of birds. Many birds died during that period. After the replacement of old wind turbines with more powerful ones, it's mean over 1 megawatt class, bird mortality has significantly decreased. The negative impact of wind farms on bird population is assessed as low. On the next slide, you can see a brief history and illustration of how wind turbines have progressed over the past 3 decades. It's not problem to see with that. The reason why bird mortality has recently decreased is related to technical progress and the characteristic of wind turbines. New wind turbines are taller. The blades have become longer. The distance between adjacent wind turbines has become larger. And most important for us and for the birds, of course, the speed of rotation of the rotor has decreased significantly. This is very important for birds to avoid collision and to be able to react to the rotation of the blades. When using turbines of the new generation with a capacity of more than 1.5 megawatt, the percentage of birds in the incident decreased by 1.6, even 3 times. This is due to the fact that the generation axis of such wind turbines is located at height of 100 meters above the ground, with a wind wheel diameter of 90, maybe 100 meters. A space of 50 meters above the ground became safe for many small sparrow birds. We will remind that small sparrow birds give the main part of collision statistics. The speed of modern movement wind wheel is less than 20 revolutions per minute. This gives the birds an opportunity to see an obstacle early and react to it. In our colleagues from Netherlands, it has been proved that the reaction of birds, depending on the size of individuals and flocks, to the working wind turbines is fixed at the distance 100-300 meters, allowing the birds whose flight speed is about 60 kilometers per hour is in most cases avoid a collision. It's good news for us, for birds, of course. Preliminary conclusion from the given data indicated the following. First, studies conducted by different authors in different regions a similar result regarding the assessment of the impact of wind turbines on birds. Wind turbines of the new generation are significantly less threatened to birds than previous model. The degree of risk during the intensive migration flight is not significantly rises. For night migrants, mortality rates are similar to daytime observations. Difficult weather conditions, for example, fog and strong wind, are potential threats to birds when moving through wind farm territories. And finally, management of the operation process of wind turbines related on monitoring of avifauna gives a positive result from the point of view of environmental protection. So, dear friends, let's back to our main question: what kills birds? Using the annual avian collision mortality estimate 500 million, our American colleagues estimate that the current level of development wind turbines constitute 0.02% of the avian collision fatalities. So we're talking about 1 or 2 birds every 10,000 avian collision fatalities. Our review indicates that the avian collision mortality associated with wind plants is much lower than other sources of collision mortality. This gives us reason to abandon the term wind turbine uplander for birds. Of course not. So with this, dear friends, we conclude our first lecture and want to announce what we will talk about at our next meeting. Since wind farms are dangerous for birds, it becomes necessary to study the negative impact on birds' populations. It is important to know with the help of what methods bird observation is carried out, with the help of what methods the field information is analyzed. Also, the most important thing is to find out what method we use to assess the impact of wind parks on birds' population. So, at the next meeting, we will learn first how to study birds, its main field research method, how to analyze field material, it's an office research method, and finally, and very important, how to assess the impact of wind farms on birds. It's mean expert level. We hope to meet you soon, and thank you very much for your attention. Дякуємо всім за увагу. Якщо є якісь запитання, будь ласка.
Does someone have some questions? Андрій?
Ні, я просто подякував.
Дякую. Якщо є запитання, будь ласка, можемо поспілкуватися, якщо організатори цієї зустрічі нам дозволяють.
I think everybody is a little bit embraced, shy to put the questions, but maybe if you look at one more time lecture or you have questions after, you can put it into our YouTube channel and it will be okay. I will provide information about when recording will be on YouTube, and you can share it or watch one more time. Thank you, Petro, for your lecture. I think it was very easy to understand, and your presentation was very picturesque, and I had a lot of pleasure to hear and to watch it.
Thank you very much. It's a very pleasure for me.
Okay, so we will discuss when we will have next lecture, and see you soon. Thank you a lot.
See you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.